to speak, and you never wavered. You are indeed a role model, fearless where concerned. Your fight against injustices and corruption through your messages is worthy of special recognition.
The President's insignia of honor.
To my trusty and well-beloved Michael Miha Drevensek, posthumously, James Great Mui, and Andrew Mupeta Chisala. Greetings. I, Hakainde Hichilema, President of the Sovereign Republic of Zambia and Commander-in-Chief of the Defense Forces of the Republic of Zambia, having regard to your services, do by this warrant award you the President's insignia of honor, given under my hand at Lusaka this 24th day of October 2022. Hakainde Hichilema, President.
Reverend Father Michael Miha Drevensek, posthumously.
You're welcome back to our special broadcast celebrating Zambia's independence anniversary of 58. And we just saw what is going on right now is that the president is presenting medals to outstanding Zambians who have performed excellently and made the country proud in the last 1 year as part of the Independence Day commemorations. We still have quite a few things to touch before we wrap up this broadcast.
Of course, nothing beats a country recognizing the hard work and involvement of its citizens, and we like to see that Zambia is awarding these people with such great honor. And of course, we have our guests who will be joining us to discuss the next round of this. We just talked about the governance and the economy, and now we'll be looking at the security. Of course, we know that Zambia is a peaceful country, and we'll have our two guests who will be here to help us talk about that, how they did it and how they've been able to maintain that for a long time. So we have Michael Mupeta, the Chief Operating Officer, Agility Logistics from Lusaka in Zambia. Thank you so much, Michael, for joining us, if you can hear me.
Thank you so much. I can hear you.
My pleasure. Now, we also have a partner, Siabutuba, the Executive Director, Youth Development Organization, Choma in Zambia. Thank you a lot, partner, for joining us.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for having us on your program.
Thank you, gentlemen. I'd like to start with Michael. Michael, your country, Zambia, has been described as a beacon of peace in Africa. It's not seen some of the civil wars that have bedeviled some of its neighbors or military coups. It's a beacon of stability and peace indeed. My question to you is, how did Zambia do this, and what lessons can other African nations learn from the Republic of Zambia?
Thank you so much. Once again, happy independence to every Zambian and locally and those in diaspora. Yes, it hasn't been easy, especially that we're a land-linked country, and we've been at the center of the liberation struggles that our neighbors have encountered. Most of this must be attributed to the injustices that may have happened. We noticed this in Congo DR, in Mozambique recently. But as Zambia, how we've done it, we've been a peace-loving nation, and it's all been coded by the way we've been from independence during the Kenneth Kaunda days to date. We've gone through 7 presidents. I think Zambians have managed to live within themselves as loving and people with humility. So I think it's really been something that we can take as one of our strength areas.
Okay, now let me ask partner this question. First of all, I would like to know if you agree with Michael. And secondly, I would like to know who we can owe this to. I mean, we know that Zambia has been ranked the 4th most peaceful country in Africa and the 44th in the world. Now, I would like to know, is it owing to the fact that Zambian people are culturally docile and non-violent, or is it because of a government? I mean, Michael mentioned the several administrations Zambia has had. So is it the government or the people that we can owe this to?
Great. First of all, I agree with my brother that Zambia is generally a peaceful nation. You see, what is very interesting to note is that it's not because we have not had any provocations from anywhere. We've had those provocations as a country. What is very interesting is that our leaders chose peace. Peace is a choice that you make as a country. Peace is a choice that you make as citizens. And I think that our forefathers, the first president of the Republic of Zambia, declared Zambia a one Zambia and one nation. We have 72 different tribes that have managed to live in peace among ourselves until today. So this is because that our forefathers chose peace and their actions were suggesting peace. And so the rest of us grew up believing in the spirit of our leaders to live in peace among ourselves, within ourselves, and with our neighbors. So that then we were only able to begin contributing to the peace that we needed in the region. As it were, if there is war in our neighborhood, we are not at peace. So our leaders then begin to pursue peace within our neighborhood, because the instability in the neighborhood had a bearing on the security of Zambia. So they began investing their peaceful efforts into the region. And so we grew believing that, and so this is a country that we are and have grown to be.
Thank you very much, partner. Now, Michael, partner did mention something quite interesting. He did talk about Zambia's relations with its neighbors. You're in a very volatile region. You're surrounded by the Democratic Republic of Congo, who has a history of conflict. You also have Zimbabwe there, Mozambique in this area, and also Angola. There's a saying that if your neighbor's house is on fire, you just don't sit back and relax. You have to do something about it. Now, looking at the ZDF, Zambia Defense Forces, how have they and Zambian diplomatic and international relations been able to engage in peacekeeping and ensuring that this fires, if I may put it, in your neighborhood does not spill over and get into the Republic of Zambia?
I think most importantly is the relationships that we've maintained with our neighbors because of our vulnerability. And I'll say this precisely because we are land linked and our closeness to the port sort of affects us if our neighbors are in trouble. Mm-hmm. We most reliantly on how well the situations are in their countries. And we have contributed a lot to the United Nations peacekeeping forces. Our defense forces always are on cards to send people for peacekeeping missions. This has also helped us stand up firm in most areas. And what has been clear is we've maintained very good relationships with almost bilateral relationships with almost all our neighbors, including the up north in the east, the eastern region, the Rwandas, Burundis. You talk of Kenya, you in the Comesa region. You move further down to Botswana, Zimbabwe,
and SADC.
The Lesotho and the entire SADC region. So it's really helped us because when our neighbors are endangered, we are there not just to maintain dialogue, but also to send enough forces to assist.
Well, notwithstanding, we believe that there have been a little bit of political outbreak, violent clashes, and of course protests when the people seem not to be in agreement with the government decisions. And now I would like to ask you, partner, how does the country manage to quell these clashes and avoid it from getting escalated?
Well, I think that the most important approach that we can appreciate was that our leaders went into resolving the conflicts with a lot of genuineness, sincerity, and open-mindedness. And so it was difficult for Zambian leaders to be misunderstood for having any hidden agenda, for example, for pursuing peace. Many peace resolutions have failed in Africa and everywhere in the world because those that sit right in the mediation table sometimes have not had a genuine agenda for resolving peace. There were also insinuations and perceptions that they had a hidden agenda in a particular conflict situation. And so some of them have actually ended up getting caught up in crossfire. It's not been the case with Zambia. I think that our leaders demonstrated that their desire for peace were genuine and only peace they wanted and nothing else. And this is why it was difficult, for anyone, any warring party, for example, to implicate Zambia on anything that could have surrounded the misunderstanding that we are obtaining between nations or between political parties. The case within Angola, for example, where it was basically a rebel group and other people within government fighting, but our leaders did not take sides. They decided to approach the whole conflict with genuineness and with objectivity, projecting peace and just preaching how important peace was for that particular country. And I think everyone else was brought on the table, understanding that they had a role to play in ensuring that peace got back into their nation. And I think this is the reason, basically, why Zambia successfully played that very important role in resolving peace around the region and elsewhere in the world.
Thank you very much, partner. Now, Michael, Zambia is a very young country. Quite a lot of its population is made up of the youth, a significant percentage indeed. And we're now looking at around 23 to 25% youth unemployment. There's a saying that an idle mind is the devil's playground. And when you have a situation where young people with all this, bustling with all this energy are unemployed, it could be a recipe for disaster and insecurity. What's the government doing to address this, and how much of a factor is youth unemployment compared to rising crime, and what have you?
All right, thank you so much. I think the most important part of it is what the government is doing currently. They've introduced free education as one of their campaign promises, and this has come to light. What it now entails is we need to have a cadre of youth that are educated. Because of the high poverty and inequalities that were there in the current state, it sort of creates a lot of unemployment because you are having an unskilled groups and unskilled youth. Mm-hmm. They are now taking it up as part of their campaign as well, is to ensure that jobs are created. We had over 30,000 teachers and health workers employed, and it's being extended. Recently, the past few weeks, we've seen the defense forces also out there trying to recruit. So we're trying to see a transition where we are up to the 2030 vision, which is having a middle income nation. And I think this is going to be possible.
Okay, a partner, I would also like to ask, there has been a certain level of unevenness when it comes to people's perspective of Zambia being a very peaceful nation. Now, some say that the media plays a huge role in passing that message across to the people, displaying Zambia as a very peaceful nation, while others say that Zambia is just actually very peaceful, and then the media portrays that as well. So would you agree with the fact that the media plays a huge role in portraying the positive Zambia in a very positive light, rather than looking at both perspectives?
Exactly. It's true because, like I said earlier, it doesn't mean that we don't have differences among ourselves. We don't have issues that potentially can cause some divisions among ourselves. But I think that we've been operating and have created ourselves an environment where different players are making a contribution to projecting only peace that we need, to try and ensure that even in all our actions, for example, the media, they are not supposed to fail to project the peace that we have. At the same time, they must not fail to bring out those elements that potentially can undermine the peace that we have, but also suggest who probably could be responsible for that sort of misbehavior to undermine and take away the peaceful gains that we have achieved as a country. I'm sure you saw in the recent past issues that were associated with political violence and how the media was reporting. And the media was still able to suggest that that political violence was basically perpetrated not as a result of disagreement among citizens, but because of a few political individuals, for example, who chose that they could take that political violence route in order to undermine each other. But then messages of unity started being preached, and the media was at the center of propagating those messages. And this is why you saw going into 2021 presidential elections, for example, which elections were feared to be very bloody. We didn't experience what was anticipated. And today we just had by-elections on the Copper Belt. In the past, with the kind of issues that were surrounding those by-elections, in the past we would have had a lot of clashes between political parties. But for the very first time now, you have what is seemingly a very highly contestable election, not recording any incident. So it is because the media is also trying to isolate those individuals that are at the center of propagating violence to communicate a message that generally, as Zambians, we are peace-loving, and no one, not even a politician, no matter how powerful they are, should begin to incite us to choose the violence route or the disunit or any other route that would compromise and undermine the peace that we have enjoyed for a long time now.
Thank you very much, partner. Now, Michael, your president has been hailed as a miracle worker, and a lot of people still feel he's in his honeymoon period. He's been president in just over a year and achieved quite a lot of feats. Inflation has been reduced, has declared free education, and Zambia's GDP seems to be growing against all expectations. People have messianic expectations of President Hakainde Hichilema. Can these be sustained throughout his term? And how would you assess his governance style so far?
I'll talk more from a private sector voice. I think it's clear his vision entails that it's trickling down to the common man. So there's a lot of involvement of the private sector. And I'll pick one example, something that I'm more conversant with is the infrastructure development and also logistics fraternity. What we now see is, and I'll use one example, is they're trying to empower the road network through public-private partnership. This will trickle down and ensure there's a lot of employment and money is being spent for the right use. I think there's proper management of the public finances. People in public office are now accountable for every penny, every cent, every way that they expend, and how they procure and how that money is put out to good use. We see this vision and on this trajectory that he's going and his government and the cabinet are moving, we see it possible. And it can only be done with all our support, every Zambian being involved and seeing the benefits in the long term.
Okay. Partner, I would also like to ask as regards the security situation. Now, we know that Zambia ran a single-party system of government before moving to a multi-party system of government, allowing for democracy. And we know that where there is democracy, there definitely will be disparities here and there. So would you say that democratization is part of what cost the violent outbreaks that come out, especially when it comes to political campaigns and election periods? Would you say that that plays a major role in violence erupting?
True, because I think that the competition, the democratic competition that is characterized by a multi-party governance system also sometimes can easily slip on the sides where people sometimes fail to protect and just argue around the ideas, and they just choose to become a disturbance, using youth, for example, to ensure that another political party that is seemingly ahead of their political party kind of retardate a bit, delay their progress, so that maybe they can take advantage and win an election. You have seen in the past where there was a very, very highly contested election, and youth were unleashed either on the opposition or on the ruling party to basically destabilize their campaign with a view to scare their supporters to turn out on the day of voting and reduce those that are going to vote against them and eventually win. So the political violence that we have seen was basically coming from this competition, political competition, that our leaders also did not do a good job in terms of sensitizing their supporters that you don't have to be violent in order to put your point across. The Zambians just needed the different messages of who is going to do it best. The common enemy was not a political party. The common enemy was poverty, corruption, unemployment, lack of training opportunities for the young people. Those were the messages from which political parties were supposed to be propagating solutions to the citizen. But a few times, politicians, being who they are, sometimes run out of ideas, and they would choose the route of violence as opposed to being competitive in their ideas. So yes, to some extent, I would agree that it's a democratization process, the multi-party pluralism that sometimes could have been responsible for the political clashes and violence that we have experienced in the past. But I'm happy now today that I think sanity is being retained. This is why I alluded to the fact that on the Copper Belt a week ago, we had elections where it was basically incident-free. And I think that that is the trajectory that we are putting ourselves on as a country.
Thank you very much, partner. Michael, still following on the theme of free and fair elections. Last year, Zambians witnessed what is not quite a common scene in Africa, where an incumbent loses and there's a free democratic transfer of power, and the incumbent president also acknowledging and conceding defeat. No court cases, no post-election violence, nothing. What is it about the character of Zambians that makes them very peace-loving, and what can other African lessons, other African countries learn from this, that, elections are a civil exercise and not a do-or-die affair, and what can they learn from the Zambian model?
I think most importantly is that the voice of the people was heard. We had a situation where the citizens were up early, the youth echoed their voice that they needed change, and the percentage was clear, and there were no issues of disputing the choice of the people. This clearly was an attribution of what the past regime had, and I think people were ready for change. We've seen a situation in the past where we had pockets of violence, a lot of intimidation to the citizenry, but I think people stood together and voiced their change. Again, we want to thank the government of the previous regime for accepting that people's intentions. In most instances, you would see a kickback to that, fight back, but it shows an environment of good governance, something that we need to uphold. it's not easy, but I think it's something which we as Zambians need to uphold and say, keep the One Zambia, One Nation theme, as well as ensure there is a lot of togetherness in how we do things.
Okay. Partner, I would like to ask you this from a vantage point. Now, let's once again put Hichilema's administration on the limelight. He said that his administration has made giant strides in reviving the country, talking about politics, the governance, the economy, and most importantly, security. Now, he said, and I quote, he said that it was never going to be easy, but that is not a reason to stand aside and do something negative. So from your own perspective, do you think that, looking at it so far, he has made giant strides indeed?
Yes, you can see that there's seemingly been, I think, a lot of effort in trying to just get everything else back on the rail. Notwithstanding the amount of damage that could have been caused economically and just the breakdown in the rule of law. And so putting the economic train back on the rail means a lot of work. Someone must be very, very deliberate about it, including making sometimes unpopular decisions for anything to work out. You remember a few months ago, the removal of subsidies on fuel. People feared that it was going to be a very, very unpopular decision. But I think the president went ahead and made that decision to just be real about our own situation so that the decision subsequently that will be made would basically be real and reflect our current situation. So I think that there's a lot of genuineness, there's a lot of sincerity in the current government to just try and ensure that things are addressed as they are, as opposed to pretending that all is well when in fact not. Because, for example, you cannot continue selling cheaper fuel to citizens when the money you're using to buy the fuel is borrowed money, and on the other hand, you're also hiding, for example, the amount of debt stock that you have, so that you basically please, the citizenry against the huge debt that you're accumulating as a country. So I think that currently we are sitting on a trajectory where there's a lot of sincerity, we are being real about our own situation, so the decisions that are being made now are more sustainable than not.
Okay, thank you. Now, Michael, the flag of Zambia, the eagle on the flag, represents the people's ability to rise above challenges. Now, looking at your 58th independence anniversary and the dreams of the founding fathers, the Kenneth Kaundas and co, do you think Zambia today has the ability to rise above its challenges, and would we be able to see a lot of progress by the end of the first term of President Hakainde Hichilema towards pushing Zambia towards a more progressive, a more equal society? Because 60% of Zambians Zambia is one of the most unequal societies in Africa. Will they be able to bridge that gap between the rich and poor?
Clearly, we are a nation that can rise above its problems. As you rightly say, the eagle tells us to rise above our problems. We are always been in a situation where we come together as a nation and see this happen. We've been in deeper problems where the kwacha has lost strength against major currencies. But again, because of the economic implementations of things that are put in place, we've seen a fight back. We've seen a lot of changes to the law, changes in economic front, which entails that most of the way we do things makes it more economic to have a homegrown a system where the money is being spent and being made at a home level, and this I think is clear. And if we keep up to this, I think we will definitely make it.
One final question for partner. Now, I would like to ask, looking at the very docile nature of the people of Zambia, I mean, one can help but wonder, is there any way that the government is exploiting this, peaceful nature of the people? I mean, we've seen so far that the people and the government go hand in hand, agree on so many fronts, but Is there any record of the government taking advantage of this peaceful nature?
Completely so. I think that our leaders, including the current president, have been saying that we cannot achieve economic progress if we are not at peace among ourselves, if we are not at peace with our neighbors, if we are not at peace with the world. So the message that is being communicated right now is that can we continue to live in peace? Then once we have created that peaceful environment among ourselves and for the country, then we are going to easily invite those that want to come and work with us because their investments, for example, are secure in a peaceful environment. And so once we are not afraid to live with the neighbor, then it is easy for us to concentrate on dealing with issues that undermine our social and economic progress that we wish to make as a people. So I think this is basically right now being inculcated. You saw the president declaring that there will be no catharism in the market and at bus stops and at other trading places. The message there was that you cannot continue to operate in an environment where there's hooliganism. And this is the same place where marketeers and youths, women alike, are supposed to trade from. So can we achieve that domestic peace that we need for our community-based activities to continue? So at a larger scale, I think that this message is being reflected. And so it is very clear that government is saying, can we be peaceful amongst ourselves and with the neighbors and with the globe? Then we can easily pursue economic progress that we desire as a people. And I think that we are on course with that kind of understanding.
Thank you very much. A fine place to end this conversation. I'd like to say a very big thank you to you. Michael Mupeta, Chief Operating Officer, Agility Logistics in the Zambian capital, Lusaka, and partner Siabutuba, Executive Director at the Youth Development Organization in Choma, Zambia. Thanks for being a part of this broadcast. We wish you and Zambians a happy independence anniversary and a bright future towards the dreams of the founding fathers. Thank you very much for joining us, gentlemen.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you so much. It was our privilege for having us on your program.
Our pleasure. It really has been a very beautiful 2-hour conversation of talking about Zambia's politics, economy, governance, and of course security. And I have actually learned a lot.
Yes, indeed. And you will be shocked to know that Zambia is actually as peaceful or even more peaceful than some European countries. So you have the go-ahead to visit Livingston.
Oh, definitely. That's a green light there.
Okay, thank you very much for being a part of this program. We do appreciate your participation. You can always leave your messages for the group people of Zambia using the hashtag Zambia at 58. On behalf of the team and everyone, I say thank you for being a part of this broadcast. See you some other time. I'm Gbenga Aborowa.
And I'm Blessings Mosugu. Happy 58th anniversary to Zambia.